Well, the day is finally here, folks. This wooden planter that we built about 4 or 5 years ago out of pallet wood is finally falling apart. Literally. If we haven't met before, my name is Tara and I garden in the Bay Area where our climate is hot and dry. So technically, wood does last a little bit longer than it would in, say, Florida or Texas, where the weather is just a lot more humid, and so the wood absorbs that moisture and rots faster. Still, my wooden planters, they've got a lifetime too, and that lifetime is roughly the 5-6 year time frame. So every 5 to 6 years, I've got to be prepared to replace my planters because they will start falling apart, just like this one. Though, disclaimer, this was built out of pallet wood, so not exactly the highest quality. Now, you could go for more expensive wood like cedar wood, etc., but I've decided that I am going to replace as many of my beds as possible with galvanized steel because that is working really well for me so far. And lucky for me, Vego Garden has sent me this modern galvanized raised bed, which I'm going to be setting up to replace that one. Now, it's got a little bit of a different look than your traditional galvanized beds that have sort of that rippled surface. This has got a nice smooth surface. It's got a great double wall. And so it's just a whole lot sturdier, and the double wall hopefully will help with some of those temperature fluctuations that you might see at the edge of a galvanized bed in extremely hot climates like mine. So let's go ahead and set this up today, and I'm also going to be showing you how the soil looks in that planter. It's been about 4 to 5 years, and the wood at the bottom, I put logs and twigs and things like that. Technically, they should have decomposed by now, so let's see how that's looking, because a lot of gardeners do fill the bottoms of their bed with twigs and logs and things. So those do take a while to decompose, so let's see how mine did as well. Oh, by the way, that soil is really good. So I'm going to be filling this planter with some awesome soil that already is full of life. It's got a little dried out, but all that life will come back when I water it in, and we'll get it all set up. Now, I've bought this planter with an intermediate level because I'm mostly going to be growing vegetables in it, and vegetables need no more than 12, maybe 18 inches of soil. And having that intermediate level also helps protect the bottom because I'm going to be putting this on my concrete surface and it will keep the soil off the surface, which is kind of nice. Now, remember that this is optional because a lot of people actually like to sit their raised beds on soil so that the plants can have access to more than just what's in the container. But for me, this intermediate level is going to do the job. The first thing you want to do is lay out all the parts, which I have done here already, and you want to check and make sure that you've got every single part, because the last thing you want to do is find that when you're halfway through, you're missing a screw or something like that. So, yep, check all the parts before you get started. So there are various options of sizes for this bed. I have got the 32-inch tall, 27 by 53. So that's roughly 2 feet by 4 feet, which is the size of most of my other beds. Now, I have purchased, like I said, that optional intermediate layer. So there was another manual that came with it that said, if you buy the intermediate level, do not use the manual that came with the original box because you're going to have to take it all apart to put the intermediate level back in. So, yep, make sure that you use this manual that came with the intermediate level and not this one. So that is pretty useful, actually. It contained the names of some of the parts that are not mentioned over here. Anyway, I read both manuals. I was really good this time. So Vego Garden says that this setup is best done with 2 people and should take about an hour. So I'm going to go get my husband. He's a little bit camera shy, so let's see whether we can convince him to at least show his back to the camera while he helps me. Okay, I've collected all my tools, screwdriver, mallet, and I love my pink little box of tools. These are mom's tools. No one else is supposed to use them. That's the rules, but no one seems to follow the rules in this house. All right. Let's get the intermediate level set up first. So while my husband helps me get this set up, let me talk about some of the features of the product. I already mentioned the double wall. It's about 0.8 inches thick, and it really adds structural integrity to the product in addition to that temperature stability across the bed. Setup was super easy, but you do need that electric screwdriver because of slight misalignment of the holes. You need that electric screwdriver to ram it in. You slide the intermediate level in, and Vego recommends that you install it 2 grooves down from the top. Now these bracing frames are really important because they help the planter walls really stay stable. Without them and with the weight, without them and with the weight of the soil, they could bend outward, bow outward. So these really help them stay put in place. I really love the rounded corners and the smooth edges of this planter. And of course, that galvanized steel, it's gonna last a lifetime. Hammer those corners into place, put the little label on, and we're done. Well, it took me about 3 or 4 hours of filling this up and hauling away the pallet wood and cleaning up the space a bit, but I got it done yesterday. Now, I tend to be a bit of a lone wolf. I take my time, but isn't it looking fabulous? Now we're going to be planting this up, and I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to be planting, as well as why do I have trash baskets here, and a little bit about this trellis. But before we do that, I actually promised you that I would show you what happened to the logs and things that I'd put at the bottom of the pallet wood planter, because I found some interesting things there, especially a little treat. So let's take a look at that first, and then we'll come back and we'll plant this up. All right, so digging through this, I am beginning to see the pieces of wood that I put in originally, and literally they are crumbling. It's all brittle, like pieces of bark. They're all falling apart. And here's some of the inner wood. It is also very soft and almost spongy. So can you imagine? This would soak up a good deal of water and slowly release it. So this kind of stuff is great stuff, and I am going to be adding it to my mix here. I mean, I can literally like squeeze and crumble it with my hand. That's what 5 years of sitting at the bottom of a pile of soil that is frequently watered does to really hard, strong wood. So one really interesting thing I wanted to show you guys, this is like a hard lump of clay that was at the bottom, but look here, I broke the clay apart, and do you see that? Those are worms. They are actually very much alive, but because of the lack of water, they go into this kind of a dormant state. Let me see if I can break it a little further for you. Got to do it carefully here without harming them. Yeah, I can feel them. They're like really soft. They actually like roll together. There's probably multiple worms over there, but they roll into this little ball, and they stay that way until the conditions become right, like right now. I'm making the conditions right for them. Okay, enough playing with worms. Back to the planter. I don't know, you guys, do you think worms are cute? I remember when I first started worm farming about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I thought that they were the grossest things. I would not go near worms. And now I can actually grab them by the handful. So it's all a mental thing. But I think one thing that we can all agree on, even if we don't want to touch worms, is that they are just amazing for the garden and great for the soil. So anyway, let me show you what I'm planting. But first, let me talk about this barrier that I'm building. Yeah, and I'm calling it a barrier and not a trellis for a reason. So one of the things that I'm really hoping to achieve with this nice smooth surface of this planter is that critters like rats and mice and voles won't be able to climb up it. And I'm pretty sure that they won't be able to, but there is one rodent that can get into this, not by climbing up, but by jumping onto it. Yeah, you guessed it, squirrels. Squirrels have been my biggest menace in the garden this year, far more than rats and mice and voles and any other critter. And I've tried so many things to keep them out, and they live here. I've got beautiful oak trees all around my property, and this is their home. So I can't really do anything about it other than figure out how to live with them, because yeah, they were here before I was, and really this is oak tree territory. So the only thing I can really do is exclusion and really try to keep them out of my plants. Now, can they climb up this? No, probably not, but they can definitely jump into it. So this trellis here is actually not a Vego Garden product. It's just a little cheapo from Amazon that I had lying around that I'd bought for something else a long time ago. Vego Garden does make a really solid trellis for this raised bed, not something flimsy like this. And of course, they're known for their quality. So I will put a link in the description to that trellis. And speaking of links, I am a Vego Garden affiliate. So if you do choose to buy any Vego Garden products, I sure would appreciate it if you would use my affiliate link in the description. And if you want $10 off your entire order, use the code GREENLOVE10. Anyway, back to this thing. I'm hoping it'll actually serve as some kind of barrier to prevent them from jumping from this highway. My fence is really a highway for squirrels, but you know, it'll be a little bit difficult for them, I think, to jump into this raised bed. Let's just say it'll make them think twice. Or maybe it'll encourage them because this thing may be easy for them to climb onto. I don't really know, but hey, I'm trying. And if you've got some better ideas for me, do let me know in the comments below. And these little wire trash cans, these are actually from the dollar store, and they are just amazing. You know, when the plants are little, seedlings are little, I use them to cover up my seedlings. But they tend to grow past this very quickly, and then my problems start again. But this is really good to kind of get the seedlings off to a good start, and it actually is a big deterrent for voles and mice as well. Though they can dig under it, they tend not to. They find something that they can get to much easier. All right, let's talk about what we're going to be planting. It's funny, one of my viewers once said, hey, you know, you do update videos, which is so great. A lot of people just do unboxing videos and then they kind of leave it that way, and we have to figure out whether or not the product worked. But now I have guilt. I feel pressured to show you the progress of things. No, not at all. I love showing progress. And I actually will show you in today's video the Easy Cube planter that I planted up a little over a month ago, and it's doing really well. So we'll take a look at that. And this one, I will definitely show you updates as things go along. So here is my selection of plants. I've got some Market More cucumbers. These are the ones that the squirrels are going to go for first. So fingers crossed, but I'm going to be planting them up along the trellis. And then I've got roselle. Now roselle is in the, I believe it's in the okra family? No, hibiscus family. Yeah, well, they're both in the hibiscus family. But it produces these gorgeous blooms as well as calyxes that are edible. And then I've got zinnias. These are Aurora zinnias. My mother used to call it zinnias. I know they call it zinnias over here in the US, but I still call them zinnias because that's what mom taught me. Anyway, she was my gardening inspiration. I'm going to be planting those around here. These are from Johnny's Seeds. This is a beautiful orangish, yellowish kind of zinnia. I will put a picture of it, and I'm hoping that I will get some beautiful blooms. It is kind of late in the season, so I've got to be careful what I plant to make sure that I get a harvest. And I think I can squeeze in a bloom harvest from this one, and I will save seeds. And then I've got a bunch of micro tomatoes. I was saving seeds for some that I grew earlier this year, and I had a bunch of unknown seeds left over, just a whole collection of them. Happens when you save seeds, at least it does to me. And I just threw them in this container, and I got a ton of them growing. Now, micro tomatoes, if you haven't grown them before, they don't grow very tall. They grow like 6 inches tall, maybe 8 inches, and they can actually grow in real tiny gallon-sized containers. Now, I've only grown them in gallon-sized containers, so I do not know that potential. I'm hoping that by planting them in this elevated raised bed where they've got all the nutrients that they want access to, that they will actually grow to their full potential. And maybe that's a little bit larger than 6 to 8 inches. We'll see. But one of the things I don't like about these is they get spider mites. Every year I get a lot of spider mites taking over and taking down these plants. So let's see whether it makes any difference if I grow them in a much more positive environment, let's call it that, than a 1-gallon pot. My sister absolutely hates it when I don't wear gloves when I garden. She's a nurse, so I hope she's not watching this. So I've seen these baskets actually come in these 2 colors, black and white. The white is very obvious. See, if you put it over here, you can easily see it. That's kind of helpful when you're watering your plants, and it actually helps navigate things better. However, it's really obvious, the striking white. The black, kind of interesting. Look at that, it almost disappears. So choice is yours. I usually prefer black, but I'm kind of liking the white because I can water more easily. And then the other thing is, this used to be $1.25. I think the price has gone up. It's like $1.50 now, but still very, very worth it. And as my mom says, whenever you plant something new, you always water it in immediately. She used to call this the water of life. So, and my mother was my inspiration as a gardener. I learned to garden when I was probably 7 years old, and I loved it even then. Life kind of got in the way, and I restarted in full earnest in the COVID era, like many gardeners did. But I am loving it and spending so much time and learning so much from it. It is, I'm biased, but it's probably one of the best hobbies you can have. Great for health, mental as well as physical, and you get to enjoy nature and appreciate it. So many benefits to gardening. All right, I'm going to be planting the roselle in the center and then the zinnias around it, and I'm going to be planting the little micro tomatoes in the front. Now, I actually rarely plant in the morning or afternoon, but today is kind of a dull day. We actually had a little bit of rain, which is so surprising, especially in the Bay Area, because we never get any rain until like November. So rain in July is a rarity. We've had a really mild season so far. I think the highest we've gotten is like 96 degrees. And usually by this time, we've had a couple of heat waves. So this is extremely, extremely unusual. Now, I usually add fertilizer to the soil when I'm planting these. And to be honest, I forgot to bring my slow release fertilizer here, but I will come and scratch some into the surface later on. Roselle makes lovely tea. Beautiful color, beautiful pink color. Got so many micro tomatoes. I'm gonna pack them in real close. Lay them out first so I can space them properly. I went and got a patio umbrella because I noticed it is starting to get a little bit hot. The sun is coming out and the plants are already starting to wilt. So you definitely want to give it some shade if you're planting in the middle of the day. Oh, and I also got a pair of gloves. Just for you, Anita. See? Wearing gloves. And the last step that we're going to do is put some mulch. Now, in California, you cannot live without mulch. It is an absolute necessity. So I'm using this thing called Gorilla Mulch. I actually got this on Nextdoor for free from somebody. It's pretty cool. It is shredded redwood, I think is what it is. And it actually looks like gorilla hair. Look at that. It looks very pretty on the landscape. It does a great job of suppressing weeds and it holds on to moisture really, really well. One thing that is a little bit of a watch out for this kind of mulch is that when you pour water onto it, it actually does not let the water penetrate really well. So you got to make sure that you've got some gaps here and there that the water will get into. So it does a good job of not allowing too much evaporation, but the other way also holds true. So watch out for that. But I love this mulch. And I'm going to have to figure out where to get it from because I really like the look of it. Now I have to be careful when I add this mulch because the seedlings are really tiny, so I do not want to smother them. I'll probably put just a little bit today and I will come back and add some more as the plants grow a little bit. Okay, I am all done with this and I think it's looking great. I put a whole bunch of baskets around it just to sort of distract the squirrels. You can only deter them, you cannot prevent them, so I'm doing my best. Anyway, as promised, let me go show you the Easy Cube self-watering planter because it is doing pretty awesome. Let me first do a quick before shot for you. This was about 5 to 6 weeks ago when I first planted it up. You can barely see the plants. They are so tiny. And look at them now. Ta-da! This tomato plant, this is my Rosella Purple, my very, very favorite dwarf tomato plant. It is already at its maximum height. It's producing flowers. And I've got my other one, which is also a dwarf tomato. This, I believe, was the Tasmanian dwarf. It is also looking really, really good. The marigolds are all about to bloom. My little bean plants that I talked about, the ones that were from my childhood, well, they didn't do that great, but there's one that's actually thriving, and then there's a couple more. And then, of course, I couldn't help myself. I went and put a few melons in the background, some cucumber plants, and then just overall, I think it is looking gorgeous. I really think it's that 20-gallon tank of water that keeps it going. And of course, I also gave it some wonderful soil. It has nothing to complain about. Oh, here's the Peruvian pepper. Yeah, that was like that big when I planted it. Look at it now. It's going to be fruiting pretty soon. Just can't wait. First time I'm growing this. So I'll put a link to the video where I actually set this up. You can see how I put this planter together. And I hope you enjoyed the progress report. I will promise to do a progress report on the other planter that we just planted up as well, maybe in about a month or so, so you can see the difference. And I'm hoping it'll do well. Until next time, folks, live green and love your greens.